Welcome back to another episode of That Gecks Out. This is a small podcast where I try to get on here and make content when I can for leopard gecko breeders. Just anything that I can think of that might be a little helpful to the name of the game. So with that being said, I'm Joe from wildcardgeckos. Today we're going to be diving into one of the most critical but often overlooked parts of any serious project, and that is animal proving. So this episode is for any breeders out there working on projects with unknowns, chasing down those sneaky recessives and keeping clean data so that they can obviously share that with the community. I am going to leave out Punnett squares. I feel like teaching about Punnett squares is something that we talk about a lot, so you won't be seeing that here, but I will address them a little bit later. We'll be talking about male replacement strategies and the 5 questions that I myself ask anytime that I'm deciding whether or not to keep a male that I have proven out with a recessive. The reason for the 5 questions, just so you guys know, is so that I can tighten up my entire game and lock things in. So let's lock it in. Animal proving sounds kind of simple, but it's actually not. It's a high skill in my opinion. It's a big move on your part if you're looking to be somebody who is known and respected in the community. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is oftentimes you'll see somebody who posts something on Morph Market or some other for sale type of website, a marketplace, and based off of what you write on there, breeders like me who've been around a while and breeders who've been around longer than me, we can tell at what level you're at. We know whether or not we should trust what you're selling, and we know whether or not it's going to help in one of our projects. Because if you are anything like me, you breed with intent. Now, I want to make it clear that sometimes the intent can be to make money. Obviously, my animals pay for all their own food. I don't at this point have to put any money out of my own pocket to feed them. I create babies while working with projects and have enough animals to go on Morph Market or expos or things like that, so that the animals feed themselves, which is a great benefit. But I still do breed with intent, and it is a lot more intention than just making money. I've noticed that money kind of travels with the animals, and there are times when it's not there, and all of those things are fine because a hobby's a hobby and it makes you happy. Let's say we're doing that and you're pairing animals normally for the intent of figuring out if this new male, we'll call him male 13. I just purchased it from, top scale breeder who says that it has no hets, but somewhere in the line back in the day, there might have been, let's say, Tremper albino and Eclipse for an eye trait. We will go ahead and go with those two. But this one specifically, the parents are meant to be het free. Do you need to test your animal that you just purchased? The answer is always yes. I don't care who tells you what. Good for them. Pat them on the back. Love them. But test your own animals, because when you throw that visual recessive, all it's going to do is make you upset because you invested your time, money, and rack space, right? So test the animal. If the breeder got it wrong, should you go back and be upset with them? The answer is no. None of us have any say whatsoever over Mother Nature, and probabilities are probabilities, right? It means probably. So if I test something over and over and over again, and for 7, 8, 9 years, the male has thrown 59 offspring year 1 and 1,000 year 2, and I've never once shown any of the recessives, I might send you an offspring and you could pop out a recessive and then I pop out one in the same year. You never know what's going to happen. It's just all probability. So no, you should not be getting upset with your fellow breeders who are doing their best, as long as you know they are somebody who's doing their best. And like I said, you can typically tell that in the descriptions on their marketplace. When you hatch a visual from pairing an animal that is potentially heterozygous for something along the lines like Tremper, you pair it to a visual Tremper and bam, you go ahead and you throw Tremper babies, right? You've just upgraded your animal. He is now 100% het for Tremper. You now know exactly what you're working with. And once that happens, your project does take a little bit of a turn. Okay. It's no longer just about proving. Now it's about preserving the phenotype and doing that without compromising your genetic goals. Okay. So for example, we'll say that male 13 One of my genetic goals going down the line for the phenotype that I'm trying to stabilize and lock in is that it did not have Tremper. Well, obviously, at this point, I'm not going to achieve that with this male. So, what's my next step? Well, my next step is to figure out how to move forward with that project. But before I do that, I typically am going to sit back and ask myself 5 questions. I'm going to contemplate it if the project is important enough to me. And once I get my answers in, I kind of know where I'm going to go from there. So, question number one is, do I have the time, space, and energy to continue, or the bandwidth to continue with this project, even though it just changed entirely? Okay, everything about it will be different from this point forward if I choose to keep going. Question number two, am I okay with the change? And what are my possibilities now that I know what the animal carries? Okay. Question number three, is this an opportunity to tighten things up and remove a project? Maybe something cool happened, right? And I ended up purchasing another sector of animals from a different breeder who just came out with something phenomenal. I kind of want to interject that, but I'm already on this path. Well, I did just hit a fork in the road and I can make a different choice now because I sort of had a choice made for me, right? Question number four, does working with this specific morph excite me enough to want to put the time and effort into continuing beyond proving? Question number five, were the offspring from this project going to another project to culminate in one large project? And would it be a valuable addition with your new change? And kind of a sub question to that is, does it still meet my needs? You could say that. Okay. If the answer to any of these questions are negative in clarity, then I'm going to go ahead and retire the male, probably sell him off, pet him out, let people know exactly what it is. I will disclose my newfound het. I did all that work, right? Why not tell you about it? This is a good thing, and somebody might need it exactly as it is. There is absolutely nothing that devalues it from having a het. Somebody just may or may not want to work with it. You're still going to get some money back for it, and you can apply that towards a lot of different things. If enough positive reinforcement in my own mind comes back with what I can do, then obviously I'm going to choose to move on with it. And it's time to do a little more proving. Okay. I'm choosing to move on. Let's say that that was my choice with my 5 questions. So let's say that you do hash out that visual from male 13. First off, um, you don't need to move fast, but you do need to take some time strategically. Something needs to change, and this male is potentially off the table. Now, let's say for the sake of what we're doing now, he's 100% off the table. I'm not going to move forward, but he is too valuable to let go. So, a lot of the times when I'm pairing that male to a visual female to test out the babies, that's not the direction I was going. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that I'm working with a firebold male and now he's het for Tremper, and I don't want that. But I happen to have a firebold female that has been proven to not have any hets, and she's currently not paired up but old enough to pair. What I would do at that point is take him to her and start producing eggs. What kind of eggs? So the eggs are all going to be male. Okay, you remember, you are trying to replace your male that you've just put all this work into proving he has a het. And what you're now doing is you're doing a het, 100% het male for Tremper to a non-het female, and all of the offspring, you have a 50-50 chance of having them have hets or not hets, but they're all going to look the same. Basically, they're not going to look albino. Then I'm going to selectively pick the couple of males that look mostly like dad. They have that phenotype that I am currently trying to stabilize and lock in. Because even within Firebolt, even within whatever project you're working with, there are slightly different looks, and some of us just like one that we're working with. So make sure that you selectively pick out the males, and then from there, they may all have that het, but you're going to test those out the following year, and you're going to make sure which ones do and don't throw Tremper albinos. Now, if none of them throw it, awesome. Now you can just be picky. If only one of them doesn't throw it, that's obviously your new male, and you will prove him out. In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with trying to do it every single year from now on, because he can still move into your projects by year 3. It would be his year 2, but it's year 3 overall. And technically, if you keep pairing him to albinos every year and one year he throws it, Well, you might have made a mistake because he's nothing different than his dad. So that is that. Um, with this kind of a situation, you are doing a little bit of a higher thinking. You are definitely acting like a responsible breeder. And I would commend you to thinking of yourself as a little bit more informed, a little bit more part of the community that we want you to be a part of. Definitely, we want honesty. So, what are these final takeaways? I wrote up a couple of them really quick, and I'm going to read them to you. One, proving isn't just about hitting a recessive. Okay. That is one thing. It's the first thing. But it's about protecting and sculpting your lines. Okay. You're going to be working with your project a certain way. Don't be afraid to replace your males. That's a big one. Punnett squares. These are not suggestions. If you're one of those breeders who is breeding and loves being in the hobby, but just can't figure out Punnett squares, I'll get to them later. You're making a huge mistake. You need to understand Punnett squares. Okay, so take the time to learn them. It won't take longer than 15 minutes. Practice with them often and just do everything you can to help them because they are a little bit part of your blueprint. All right. Write up some of your own questions as another final takeaway. I have 5. Maybe you have 10. Maybe you have 3. But write up some of your own questions. Make sure you're not wasting your time. Don't waste your rack space and don't waste your money. Breed with intention. The last part is just disclose your hets. I said that a little bit earlier. Obviously, I mean that wholeheartedly. If you're one of those breeders that does not disclose hets, it easily is found out. It easily gets around, and people may not bash you online. The leopard gecko community is doing a lot to try not to behave like this anymore. And in my opinion, y'all are doing a fantastic job of that. This is a great place to be. I'm enjoying it. Nobody's making fun of me for talking with my hand right now. Did you see that? I mean, point proven, right? We're doing a good job. But disclosing your hets is super important because if you don't, you take away from future possibilities of sales with other breeders. So once I know that you're somebody that does not disclose hets, you will not see me again. And you can multiply me by anybody that has weight behind them in the hobby. They are not going to buy from you when they know exactly who you are and what you do and don't do. And I personally am never ashamed to write something down. I put all that work into it. Why not? The only reason to not disclose a head is because I didn't put any work into it that made me a valuable part of this community and a valuable breeder who breeds with intent. All right. That is it for this episode of That Gecks Out. If you got any value from this one, go ahead and share it. Do me a favor, like it, and put it on your DMs to other people. Let them know that this is something they can go check out anytime they want to learn a little bit more about how to prove out animals, maybe how to breed with intent, and a tiny snippet about what to do with replacing your male. Follow me on Instagram at wildcardgeckos. And anytime you need some help, shoot me a message. I like communication, so I'll probably get back to you right away. But till next time, keep your axe tight, keep your projects smart, and that Gecks out.